Hi, I'm Annie Saunders. I'm a collaborator and a performer in the piece called Holoscenes in the exhibition. The author of the work is Lars Jan, and he was not able to be here, so I'm going to talk a bit about the project and how it was created and the point at which we made these videos that are in the exhibition and how that came about. So Holoscenes, the title of the piece is a bit of a pun. As has been mentioned a bit here, the Holocene is the current geological era that we're in now, but there's some discussion from climate scientists about whether we are now entering the Anthropocene, which is the first man-made geological era. So our piece also plays on the idea of a scene and an empty scene, a Holocene. And it's a multi-platform artwork. It has a live performance, which tours, which is inside a large aquarium with a performer. And then we have a video installation of this phase of experimentation from an early phase of the project, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then there are also photographs and other artwork. And also there's an online component of source material that we use to create the show. So I'll talk a little bit about the genesis of it. Lars, the director and the artist, has for a long time had a fixation with aquariums, normal aquariums with fish, not human aquariums. And basically he has had a real obsession with aquariums and the kind of idea of an aquarium as a really impossible object. The weight of the water in an aquarium requires the walls to be like many feet thick, and just the idea of taking an element that is supposed to be below us and putting it in front of us, like in this human structure, so that we can look at the ocean in a completely unnatural way. And what that means about our desire to sort of the necessity and the impossibility of understanding other cultures and other species that is embodied by the aquarium. It's really impossible for us to truly understand and empathize with things that live in the ocean or maybe other people from other places, but we constantly try as humans. And one of the ways that we try is in this problematic way of specimen gathering. So we looked a lot at the history of that, of like people going, Darwin and people going off and finding creatures and sending them back to be put in boxes and stuff, as a kind of horrible and beautiful practice, actually, of trying to understand things, but also destroying them in the process. And all of those ideas are kind of embodied in the aquarium, the idea of an aquarium. So the necessity and impossibility of true empathy, and also empathy over time. So to really understand what an experience is like for another person, especially since, and this relates to the fact that a lot of the time when we see images of aquatic disasters, which are more and more prevalent in our time, floods and tsunamis and things like that, that we see these snapshots of what's happening, and the experience of really understanding and empathizing with what's going on is lost in that. So there was a thing about the aquarium, the exploration of human capacity for empathy, true empathy over time. And Lars had just an image of a guy in a condominium with a window reading the newspaper, and water would come from the floor and just fill over him, and the guy would carry on reading the paper as if nothing had happened. And he became kind of obsessed with that image. And then he also saw a photograph in the New York Times of some people in a flood in Pakistan receiving aid. So they're running out into the water and packages are dropping. And it's just a photograph taken from a helicopter. But it looks a lot like a Renaissance painting. It just has the light and the color of a sort of classical painting. So those were the really inspiration images for the piece, and so we started to work on a performance, live performance, where there would be a tank, a glass box, like a room, with a person inside, fully clothed, doing something quotidian, like reading the newspaper or making coffee or getting dressed or checking their email. And water would come from the floor and fill over them and drain out and fill again, and this would go on for many hours in a public space. And so we started to work on that idea. One thing that we did was just looked at the types of things that people do every day. And this was related to the idea of the human capacity for empathy over time. So we wanted to do things in the tank that were everyday activities that everyone could recognize. And that also relates to the relationship between human time and geologic time. So as human beings, we really can't conceive of a really long period of time, like millions of years. Like, we sort of can think like 20 years, 40 years, maybe 100 years, maybe 200 years, but like 2.5 million years, like we can't think of that in a logical way. We have to use our imagination to really be able to think about what is happening with climate change. It's an imaginative process. So we wanted to look at the difficulty between me in my house on a daily basis, like sorting my recycling out, or whatever, doing some, climate change friendly activity in my life on an everyday, and then compared to like the geological progression of climate change over years time span that is impossible for me to really think about in a rational way. So in the beginning, we just looked at the types of things that people do every day, and we made a piece of software that generated 54 random points on the globe. And the first time we ran the software, they were all in the ocean, because the Earth is mostly water. So we rewrote the software so that the point would at least be like close to a boat or something. And then we just used Google Earth to zoom in on those points to see if they were close to like a road or a building. And then we tried to contact people who were close to those points and ask them to send a video of something that they do every day, so that we could gather, so that we wouldn't have biased information based on like people who could use the internet, which just, you start to cut off huge sections of the population if you're only dealing with people that can communicate in English, people who can use the internet, people who have a camera. Like, it just starts to really limit. So we tried. It didn't work really. We got about 5 or 6 videos just because we didn't have the resources to do that really. Like, send, like one of the points was in the center of Greenland on a glacier. And we did find a scientist close to there who sent us a video of him getting dressed to go outside. One of them was in someone's garden in Tehran. So we would contact like the university and ask people to go out there. But so we got a few videos like that, and then we did an open call. And basically we were expecting to get a huge variety of activities, like people doing things every day that were hugely different from each other. But we were surprised to discover that it was basically everyone making coffee or tea or cooking or cleaning or getting dressed or some way of relating to their own body. So like washing their face, brushing their teeth, putting on makeup. That was it from everywhere. So those are the types of things that now happen in the aquarium. So we spent some time looking at rituals. We did some work in a swimming pool. And then we built a prototype aquarium at a place called the Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center in upstate New York, which was made of these cylindrical water storage containers that we bought at like a hardware store. So the aquarium that we use now for the live performance is a aquarium made of acrylic, like that you would find in a fish aquarium. But at that time we were prototyping, so we bought 12 foot by 6 foot cylindrical containers for water storage, and we cut the tops off and we connected them with pipes and stuff. And I go inside of this thing. It's very trusting. So there are two cylinders, and a performer is inside of one cylinder, and the other cylinder is full of water. And the water comes out of this cylinder and fills the one with the performer inside. So this was a prototype to test the idea, but the cylindrical containers were white, so you couldn't see through the side. So we used a camera above the tank, 30 feet above the tank, to watch what we were doing. So I, or the other performer, Jeff Sobel, in the video, would be inside the tank doing whatever activity, and Lars would watch us on a monitor. And we rehearsed for 3 weeks like that, about 6 to 8 hours a day. And we were filming constantly while we were in the water. And those are the videos that are in the exhibition. So they're actually rehearsal videos, and those prototype tanks don't exist anymore. And now we tour the live performance, which is in a square, in a cube. It's much more human space. So this one, surprisingly and beautifully, have become these kind of space-age round objects, which we just discovered really while we were rehearsing and looking at the footage, how it looked like a petri dish, like a human science experiment, or it looked like a space orb, or it looked like a womb or whatever. We really had no idea that was going to happen. But so then we put together this triptych of those videos, and here we are.